Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited. Isis, All That Glitters. The goddess next door takes on a bikini-clad bank robber in this action-packed, all-new Isis series adventure. Get Isis, All That Glitters in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today. I have to ask a critical question. When do you admit that a concept is a failure? Now, the reason why I ask that critical question is because I've got this Marvel Legends Kamala Khan, Ms. Marvel, and this character, while she has received a Marvel Legends figure, has never really been that popular with most comic fans. Now, your Kamala Khan, Ms. Marvel, has barely sold 10,000 copies a month and cannot keep a series in print for longer than maybe 12 to 18 months. So I have to ask the critical question, when is it time to just walk away from a concept and move on? Because there's a line where a creator just has to say, this concept isn't getting over with the audience, and they have to put a period at the end of that concept so they can go on to do more productive things. It's something I've had to do as a creator in my career. When I had a book called All About Nikki, The Fabulous First Season, I remember that book doing very well in 2011, selling very well, but after a point, I reached a point where the audience was no longer interested. And I had to make a very painful decision to end development on that character, and I had to let the series go because I realized I was at a point where there was no more interest in this series, and it was just going to cost me money if I continued to publish that series. Moreover, it was going to cost me time, and time was an intangible I wasn't going to be able to get back to sit there and write more scripts for an All About Nikki series and episodes that no one was going to read. So I came to a conclusion that it would just be better for me to go out here and work on some other characters and try to build a readership with some brand new characters. And it seems like the people at Marvel Comics have not really registered that as related to the Kamala Khan character, and it seems like there's some sort of emotional attachment from one of the editors. I believe her name was Sana Amanat, who's called the Vice President of Content and Character Development, as related to this character, that has her continuing to relaunch this character in comic series. And then we had Square, who put this character inside of their Avengers video game, and that video game wound up losing a whole bunch of money. Now Marvel Studios is looking to develop a Kamala Khan Ms. Marvel series for Disney Plus, but when I look at the numerous failures that this character has had, it seems like they just keep pouring good money after bad as related to this character. And when you are a creator and you keep putting good money after bad with a character, eventually you reach a point where you're just wasting money and you're wasting time. And that's what I think is happening with this Kamala Khan character, is that Marvel keeps thinking that if they keep making series and they keep making products, eventually the customer will eventually come around to the character and eventually see what's great about the character. But that's not the case at all from what I've experienced. Usually, people either want to go and like a character or they don't like a character. And usually, if they like a character, they're going to go out here and continue to support that character in whatever products or merchandise you promote. And you're not going to have any problems selling that character because people are going to demand more product with that character. But what I'm seeing over at Marvel is they continue to push this character. And I also start to see this over at DC. Another effort to push characters like Naomi. Again, another character who barely could sell 10,000 copies of her own book. They want to give her her own TV show, but there's no audience proven that's interested in these characters. But there has to come a point where even a multi-billion-dollar company has to pull the plug on a character that nobody wants, because there comes a point where you're just taking so many losses that it just isn't profitable for you to continue making product featuring that character. Because the definition of insanity is doing the exact same thing and expecting a different result. And when I look at some of the people in the comic book industry and Hollywood, it's like they're certifiable as related to certain characters. It seems like they just keep trying to rebox and repackage the same characters, like your Kamala Khans and your Captain Marvels. They continue to reboot at these characters in series after series, not ever taking a critical examination of the sales numbers and seeing that the sales numbers with each reboot and each new volume continue to decline with each passing series. So there comes a point, as I know, being a creator who's created characters, where a creator reaches a point where they realize that while they love this character and they're passionate about this character, there's no audience for this character. And because there's no audience for this character, what they do is say, I like this character and I may have liked writing stories about that character, but while this makes me feel good, this is just not a productive use of my time or a productive use of my resources. And what a creator like myself does is say, yes, I like this character and I like the stories I've written with this character, but it comes a point where I have to put a period at the end of this character's story, write the end, and move on with your career creatively. Because the more you try to make a character work in a story that an audience isn't interested in, the more time you're taking away from more productive projects that you could be doing out here, and one that could possibly be a hit. So that's what I'm seeing, and that's the critical question I have to ask. When is it time for a creator to put a period at the end of a character story and then just decide to move on? That's a question that creators like myself oftentimes have to ask, and that's a question we have to sometimes make the painful answer to, because sometimes you reach a point where you just realize that it's just not worth your time to continue working on this character, working on this character story, and it's just time to just let this character go because the audience just isn't interested, and you could just do much more better things. That's something that, again, I had to do with the book All About Marilyn and the book All About Nikki. Even though Nikki was starting to take off in 2011, by 2013 I realized that there was nothing else I could do with the Nikki Desmond character, and then I just decided to move on to other characters. And while I still love writing that type of comedy, I just realized that there was nothing else there as related to those characters that the audience was interested in. So I put a period after the end of All About Nikki Season 2, and I still have stories that I would love to do with the Nikki Desmond character, but I realize the audience isn't interested in them, and I believe companies like Marvel have to come to that same conclusion, because when you have a character like Kamala Khan who has failed to catch on after 4 series and has been in a video game like Avengers, which has hemorrhaged money, there just comes a point where a smart business person comes in and just says enough is enough. we've spent enough money on this character. Now we're going to move on to another character in the catalog, and what we're going to do is focus on that character, on the characters who sell, because the more money I spend on characters who lose money is more money that I'm not going to be able to make back in a business where most of the losses, 90% of them, are coming, and I need the 10% to cover those remaining losses. So that's something every creator has to do. It's a painful decision a creator has to make, to say, I'm not going to work on this character anymore, but it's something every creator has to do, because we just can't afford to keep spending money on characters that don't catch on, and we can't afford to keep spending money on characters that just do not really are making us money. And in the game of self-publishing, it's even more, because you have very limited cost and very limited expenses. So sometimes books get discontinued because there's no money to be made in making that product. And that's something people, again, have to think about, because it's completely insane to keep pouring money into a character where there are no sales and there's no real interest in that character. Now, if you want to try some of the books on the SJS Direct imprint that I've talked about, like All About Marilyn and All About Nikki, you can try those books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find other SJS Direct titles featuring heroines like the Isis series, the E-Steam series, the John Haynes series, and the books of the Spinsterella trilogy on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, E-Steam: The Sands of Time. It's action and adventure in ancient Egypt in this terrific teen time travel romance. Get your copy of E-Steam: The Sands of Time at your favorite online bookseller today.